because I'm an idiot.
No, you're good. You're good. So this is going to pop up and go live. So you, I guess, kind of watch language.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself for a moment.
Hey, Sienna, you ready?
Oh yeah, I still haven't gotten the link for the.
It's in
Oh,
Slack.
no, I just got it. Okay. Okay. 1 second. Okay. Okay, I'm ready when you is.
All right. Let me video.
Boop, boop, boop. because I'm an idiot.
All right. All right. All right. Welcome back to IDS season 3. Dun, 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 dun.
We made it.
I know, right? Yeah, season 3, episode. What did we say? 6 for this one?
6, 7, somewhere around there.
6, 7. Yeah, something in that area. Some singular, like singular number. So, we're not.
Not the double digits yet, but
we're not,
we'll get there too.
yeah, you know what's actually funny about that? Like, I don't think we've ever done a season where it's been double digits. Now I'm thinking about this.
Really?
Um, yeah, it's always stopped at like 8. Actually, no, I'm wrong. We stopped at 10. We stopped at 10. Like we made it a point. Yeah, and I'm an idiot. We literally made it a point to like stop at 10. So I was wrong. So okay, that's O'Shea's fault. Cool. Yeah, so what is it? February 3rd, 2021. Still in COVID times. So maybe one day when we look back at like the history books or the history of like podcasts of cybersecurity professionals, 5 years from now, someone's gonna be like, what the hell were they talking about this COVID time? Like some 15-year-old that discovered cybersecurity that's like looking at cybersecurity podcasts and like some postgraduate class at, I don't know, Berkeley or some crap.
Oh, that's an interesting thought. Oh my God. Imagine. COVID times. It'll be like sound almost unreal. It feels unreal. But anyways, so what we have going on this week. Well, actually, hi.
Yeah, hi. It's been a whole 7 days since I've seen you. How's your week going so far?
It's going good, just doing a lot of learning. I've been doing some SAS uh some SAS testing recently, so I've been trying to brush up on some secure code warrior stuff and yeah. Yeah, I'm
What
pretty
is
I
it?
feel pretty fresh to AppSec, so it's part of my new role, so I'm excited. I like getting to learn new things. But yeah.
No, that's well. We're gonna have to circle back to that in a second. But first, I definitely think we should give everyone a bit of a preview of like what's actually happening this episode. So
Yeah.
we have we have us two. I'm O'Shea Bowens,
And I'm Sienna Del Vasto.
or Sir Mudblood on Twitter, or Sir O'Shea on something else, or Obi-Wan. I don't know. I think I have like multiple
A
handles.
bunch of aliases
Yeah, I know,
and
right?
handles.
No, my wife came in here the other day. She came in my office, and I was going through some of the sites I research or whatever, and I have like just a list of stuff, names, aliases or whatnot, and I was kind of rotating those around. And there's this name generator. It's the same one that Donald Glover used, which is how he became Childish Gambino. He typed in like I can't remember what he typed in, like Wu-Tang and something else, and it came up with Childish
Yeah.
Gambino.
Oh my gosh, I remember hearing that story a while back,
Yeah, that's how I
actually.
come up with my aliases. I put in names in like
The
these
name
generators.
generator.
Yeah, like straight up. I put them in like these generators, and oh wait, someone said there's no sound. That's weird.
Uh,
1 sec, let's check that.
dun dun dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
Dun dun dun. Dun dun.
Yeah.
Looking for the problem.
Yeah, I know. Well, someone just dropped in chat that there's no sound, so I'm not sure if
Hmm.
well, let us know if there's sound. I think that's actually Davin actually. Yeah, that's weird. Let me just double check something. Sorry. Thank you for letting us know. We would have kept going. So weird. Yeah, I mean I can hear you on my side, so I don't know. If someone else drops something, I guess we'll know.
Ooh, I just realized that the link we had Well, at least that I put up on Twitter was the old one.
What's that?
The link I put up on Twitter was the sound check that we had.
Oh, really?
I just took that down. Wow.
um, yeah. Now I'm like super concerned.
The beauty of going live.
Yeah, yeah. I
Anything can
mean, well,
happen.
I can hear us I can hear us on our YouTube channel. So I don't know. Maybe it's something with the IDS. I mean the Twitch on YouTube. It's definitely going. So yeah, not entirely sure. Um, what were we saying? Oh, yes. Sorry. We got distracted. This is what happens when you have people with ADD. Like you cannot. I have horrible ADD, and so like
Listen,
it's like I see one thing, and then it's
I am so shameful about that. I literally went to go
yeah.
get my hair done once and I saw something shiny go in a corner and I turned and I couldn't help myself and I realized it was a watch and I started busting out laughing because I was like, literally saw something shine and I could not. And the woman's like doing my hair and I was like, I'm an idiot. So I'm like, literal squirrel.
Squirrel,
Anyways,
squirrel. What movie is that from, by the way?
up.
Okay.
Also Disney
Uh,
geek, so yeah.
yes. Oh, yes. Thank you. So cool.
Anyways.
Yeah. So yeah, we definitely have Ken Underhill. We'll be getting into his segment a
Mhm.
bit later. Definitely pumped to have him on. It took us some time because everyone has just ridiculous schedules nowadays. I know I don't have I don't have a lot of free time.
Mhm.
You don't, and so it was definitely cool for him to stop by. So
Oh yeah.
we'll definitely get to him, fairly soon. But definitely wanted to catch up on, things happening in the news in the cybers essentially. Something that I was reading about today. Actually, well, I did some final analysis today because I thought research today because I thought they were going to drop more names
Mhm.
associated with the takedown, but one massively kind of like feather in the hat for law enforcement was the takedown of Emotet. Emotet's been around for at least like 4 or 5 years. Like they have
Yeah.
just been. It's if you're unfamiliar with them, it's essentially like a global malware campaign of and they weren't primarily a lot of their targets were kind of like in the financial space. It was a lot of it was actually weird because not weird. It was in some ways you have to like look at what they were able to pull off
Mhm.
from a capabilities and from a campaign perspective and kind of be in all of it because they constantly updated like modus operandi, right? Like at
Mhm.
one point it was drive-by, at one point it was like DNS sinkholing. When people begin to put out like I'm in a couple different information sharing groups and I know for certain like some of the Yara signatures and detection capabilities that we would get. Let's say it's what it's February 3rd. Some of the detection capabilities we would get. By the 15th and 16th, those would not really be as valid anymore
Mhm.
because by the time that comes around, that's what almost like 14 days. Actually, that's 13 days. That's 13 days out. They've already moved over
Yep.
to new C2 to new C2 channels or they're redirecting traffic somewhere, like totally new. So it's one of those things of like, I think it kind of proves when you're making money, like if you're a threat actor and you're making money and you're totally vested in
Mhm.
continuing that scheme, uh, you will go pretty far. There's some pretty far lengths you will go to keep it rolling in, right? Like
Oh
that
yeah.
operating for years and years and years of without getting caught. I don't remember reading about a lot of that crew getting busted.
Mhm.
This looks like it was actually a joint effort between Europol being a mixture of law enforcement agencies. So this could range from like state police to
Mhm.
federal to local, but essentially a coalition of different law enforcement agencies working together, specifically across different countries in surprise Europe. And if you haven't heard of that, or if you're totally unfamiliar with it, so it looks like the agencies leading the charge were the U.S. Nice, the U.S. via the FBI. Looks like the Germans, France, Canada, the UK, Netherlands. I feel like there's one more I might be missing. But on January 27, they revealed like kind of this global coalition of law enforcement agencies and judicial authorities, in different countries, essentially tracking them down and able to actually shut down and kind of dismantle
Hmm.
some of their infrastructure. Um, it looks like some of the people were based out of the Ukraine, which isn't super surprising. It looks like there's actually a video of the takedown. Someone just chatted this to me or sent this to
Really?
me. Uh, I'll drop this link. Yeah, I'll drop this link in chat. But it looks like there's a video of the takedown, and they're inside one of the. Oh, they're actually inside one of the dude's houses. So yeah, inside the house, it looks like they seized some money, some different foreign currencies. Of is
I
that a
wonder how long the
it looks like
investigation went on before they were able to execute like that, or if it was just kind
let's
of
see. So
impromptu.
let's see. I'm looking through the article right now. I'm not seeing a start date. I'm gonna guess,
I'm sure it's been
once they
going
hit
on
the
for a
first
while.
bank. Like, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
it's been going on since they identified them, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, that would be like the
Mhm.
guess of yeah, I'm not seeing a time when they actually a date of when the
Mhm.
coalition was put together. Um, Typically I think what'll happen, and this isn't just the case with them. This is the case with uh kind of with like the mage cart gangs, right?
Mhm.
What was that other banking Trojan? Crap, I'm trying to think of it. It was made by that dude in the UK. It'll come
Um,
back to me, but usually a couple of days after it, a week after it, they start to release more in-depth details, specifically around the court case. So once it's actually in court, a lot of those records
oh
become
yeah,
public. So you'll
with like
start.
discovery and whatnot, I'm sure.
Yes, thank you. Someone went to law school, but you start to get more of an idea of like what actually took place from start to finish during the investigation, and any sources and things like that may be revealed. So I'm sure we'll hear about that a little bit later. But I think that's definitely huge and really awesome to see. It shows to me that the good guys can get wins. It's just our wins
Hmm.
are you know
It
fairly
takes time.
what was that?
I was gonna say, like, it takes time, it's a lot
Yeah,
of planning, and at some point it's a cat and mouse game, even just like you were saying, even just over a couple days, the
yeah,
techniques might change and whatnot, the resources that are being utilized by these threat actors changing, at the drop of a hat. But after, the diligence and the hard work that's put in, luckily, like in this case, it paid off. I would consider,
yeah,
the
I think
takedown
so.
especially, it's a success
Yeah, I
for
mean,
law
and also
enforcement for
like
sure.
I can speak from this from personal experience, doing working on IR engagements, but also from the time when I was like working with government. A lot of the times when you have interagency operation, just like interagency cooperation in the U.S., like so
Mhm.
between like DoD or DOE and NSA or FBI, DOJ, all that stuff, it takes a hell of a long time to get that up and running and to get that set up because there's boundaries that you can't really cross depending on jurisdiction, right? So
Mhm.
there's certain collection methods that maybe DoD can leverage that DOJ won't,
Yeah.
or you have to think about it also in terms of like this sounds like really selfish, but in terms of like tooling and
Mhm.
and sharing tooling that you've created, like if you develop, let's say something a tool around memory forensics and that can decrease the time to capture and analyze objects running like in memory? Are you going to want to share that with, another agency, right?
Yeah.
So when I think about the time perspective, I think, ramp that up or expand upon that when it's different countries, right? Different countries
Oh, of
sharing
course.
sources, their tooling, that's going to take, a hell of a long time to get everyone, essentially like on the same page, right? So,
Yeah.
uh, but at the same time, I think not. I shouldn't say I think based off the things I've done in the past when it comes to uh, operating within interagencies. I think when you bring that amount of firepower together, it's really hard
Mm.
for the bad guys to hide, right? Like when you
Yeah.
have that many eyes focused on you, when you've risen to the level that you've stolen millions of dollars, you've
Hmm.
wreaked damages in the millions of dollars, and that's
Yeah.
running up. I think you kind of put a target on your back, kind of asking law enforcement to step in and and really start to chase you down, right? Like there's no
Oh, yeah.
kind way about that. You've basically put a target on yourself that says, "Hey, come get me." And nobody's bulletproof, really. I mean, the only thing that comes to mind right now when I think about actors that are still kind of on the loose is um the Russian dude that wrote Game Over Zeus. I can't. What is his name? Um,
You got me on that.
oh my god, what is his name? I can't think of it right now. But the guy that wrote
I'm
like
sure it'll come to you soon.
what's that?
I'm sure it'll come to you later and you'll just be like,
Yeah,
oh, that was
yeah.
it.
Yeah. But the guy that wrote Zeus, it's basically it's some Russian hacker that most stories and like if you read a lot I think Curbs on Security or Brian Curbs has a lot of story research on this, but it's assumed that he was working with the Russian government and the Russians
Yeah.
are hiding him, so he's likely never going to leave that country. But he's the only one that kind of comes to mind that's done like this major amount of damage that hasn't been caught. He's been identified, just not caught because we can't go into Russia and like grab.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, hats off to uh, Europol and all the agencies that were able to kind of shut down Emotet, and definitely a win for the good. I almost said the good guys. I'm trying to be more cautious of this. The good people, people fighting the good fight, essentially.
Yeah, fair enough. But it's definitely good news, and I'm sure that it's definitely kind of not kind of, but it's justified, based on how they're the on what the impact that they've done in cyber, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
what was the and then the next one that we wanted to discuss? I'm lost in my tabs. Um,
What's on your mind?
it's I swear I'm on tab overload, and I'm sure everybody else is very similar to that when when working from home. I don't know. Do you want to jump into the other piece of news that you had discussed while I am
Yeah,
that
yeah,
you came
sure.
across?
So yeah, yeah. Well, the other one was actually, so this is I just did a podcast of, not a podcast, sorry. Um um a webinar yesterday with Cyber SN. So
Oh,
there was myself, Mark Arnold, and Jennifer. I cannot recall her name right now. I'm sorry, Jennifer. I can't think of her last name. I know she's over at Crane. She's over at Crane. That's the name of the company. But we were just talking about evasion techniques, and what, like how, like the different pieces of malware that are sold out there that allow you to kind of skip around or walk around different EDR solutions, right? So by attaching to a running process, I think I mean, this isn't really new techniques, but attaching to different processes for different types of process injection, and allowing you to kind of slide under the radar of most EDR vendors. So EDR, escape or evasion, not escape. I'm sorry. You actually, it would be more evasion. EDR evasion isn't something that's super super new,
hmm.
but something that I was reading about was Agent Tesla, which is essentially a RAT, or remote access tool.
Hmm.
If you're unfamiliar with RATs or remote access tools, this is essentially a piece of software that can really be legitimate or illegitimate. I mean, in reality, in like the early 2000s, a lot of the ways that you got support from actually this is likely still the case, not as much, but a lot of the ways that you got support from like help desk if you're in a large organization was them having the ability to remote into your machine by a standard binary being pushed out with the build package,
Mhm.
and this allowed help desk agents and personnel to gain access to your machine and start to help you troubleshoot and all that good stuff. So there are good remote access tools, like most things in security. When people ask about what's a good hacking tool, I'm like, well, a good hacking tool is a tool that you would use normally that's already on a box that you can repurpose for whatever the heck
Mhm.
you need to do, right?
Mhm.
The agent Tesla rat is something that's a bit interesting because what it essentially does is what this researcher is stating is it's able to evade Microsoft AMSI. AMSI is the interface. So essentially, this is Microsoft's when about 2 or 3 years ago when Microsoft started to build tools like ATP and tools that are really deeply, deeply, deeply monitoring and capturing information. I mean, activity that's running on disk. This was them beginning to step into the EDR world, right? So
Mhm.
AMSI is essentially like the interface that allows pretty much Microsoft security products to operate with on the OS or on whether it's server Windows 10, whatever it may be, right? So you essentially need the AMSI processes to run, and what that essentially does is it has a bunch of different and simple like overview. I mean, a simple overview is basically it's an interface that has a bunch of different hooks that allows it to communicate with other processes that are operating on a Windows box. And by taking that information, it's able to create telemetry and produce security alerting. So if you think about how do EDRs or NDRs, endpoint detection response tools, actually work. They're typically monitoring activity on disk because we had to transition from traditional methods detection with only relying upon signatures. So signatures got old, years and years back. Signature still plays an important part in your detection, your defense in depth, but that got old. Attackers were running wild with
Mhm.
it, right? So in came EDR. Up until a few years ago, Microsoft didn't have a product for EDR,
Mhm.
so then they began to look at, okay, how can we leverage the ASME or AMSI, how can we leverage that to actually begin to build out something, right? So
Mhm.
this allows them again to think about having like sysmon on your box, and you turn on every single filter for sysmon, right? And there's like,
Mhm.
I don't know, 100 or something of them, which would be bananas to do that. But think about turning on like every filter for sysmon, and then leveraging that data for telemetry with your security investigations and for analysis and trying to identify attacker behavior. But what's interesting about this is this researcher essentially states that this particular rat has sorted out. Someone wrote into it the capability to essentially walk around AMSI, right? So if you're able to walk around that essentially means you one have evaded the traditional on the box tooling like Windows Defender for monitoring from a security perspective on the endpoint, but also again going back to some of the newer products that Microsoft has rolled out like ATP and stuff like that, you could potentially walk around that, which essentially means you kind of evaded, evaded really the defense parts of defense and depth uh, build out. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there. Um,
No, you're good.
yeah, and with MC, Uh, there's a few different ways to actually pull this off. Of what you're seeing of as kind of a method or a technique that's leading the way is leveraging of the .NET framework to create downloaders, and from the second stage of that, grab your payload, and then begin to do your dirt, right? So building applications off a .NET framework that are deployed on a box, that particular application runs, and from that application running, it reaches out, grabs a secondary payload. and then executes that like on the box. And then from executing that on the box, you have essentially eliminated that level of detection, right? This was also I want to. There was some. I'll look this up. There was another case that came out last year around. I want to say it was Falcon, the EDR tool from CrowdStrike.
Mhm.
No, Falcons man. No, yeah, Falcons CrowdStrike. Yeah, one of the EDR tools from CrowdStrike with evasion there, right? So I think this is the reason I like this story is, and I'm glad it looks like Sophos actually came out with the research, so kudos to them. But the reason why I like hearing about this is essentially what this shows, the shift in attack landscape, right? So
Mhm.
there's more of a focus to how can I run in memory? How can I get something that's already on the box, run that in memory, and then move to a second stage of my attack, right? So
Mhm.
it's not too much. I mean, there's still the aspect of actually landing on the box and the challenge that presumes. I mean, the challenge that presents in and of itself. But what you're
Mhm.
seeing is a lot of attackers saying, "Screw this," I'm not really too focused on trying to attack this. I need to find a way to get a hook in memory,
Mhm.
right? If I can get a hook in memory, that's a much better way to play this.
Mhm.
And this is, and I think this is something you're going to continuously see kind of going forward over the next couple of years. It's like this cat and mouse game of they figure out a way to walk around it. Microsoft, whoever, whatever vendor it is, uh, 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 dedicates some time, resources, and cycles to researching the attacker's technique. They beef it up in the code, release a new version, and then boom, they decide it keeps
Mhm.
going over and over again. But yeah, I mean, I'll drop this story. I'll go ahead and drop this story in there. But I think it's something that most people should definitely take a look at, depending on what you're actually running from a tech stack perspective inside of your environment.
Yeah. For sorry, you totally lost me in that. I was just like,
Sorry.
no, you're good. I was just like, it is super important, and I was thinking about how, yeah, it's I'm sure you definitely see more techniques of people or attackers trying to live off the land, right? Seeing
Mm-hmm.
seeing what is already on the box or on the machine, and seeing how they essentially can repurpose it, like you mentioned a little earlier. You know, the best hacking, what you've said is like some of the best hacking tools are stuff that's already on the machine that you can leverage, right? Um, but yeah, and I was thinking actually one of the story that I had come across, which is not as well, maybe it's a bit more bit interesting, more interesting than I'm giving it credit for, which
Yeah.
is just because I wish I went more in depth on the article, but I will definitely I'll send this over your way. That way, whoever's interested is they can check it out themselves as well. But it was about the TrickBot malware, that the TrickBot gang, and how they've started utilizing the mass scan tool, which is like a network reconnaissance tool, and it's used to map out the networks. It's known for being able to scan the whole internet within minutes. I think it's like 7 minutes or something like that, from what I recall. I've used it on some assessments as just like as a secondary tool, but it is that's what caught my eye initially. But from what which I'm sure you could speak to more is the TrickBot's presence, uh, the type of malware strain, but or TrickBot the gang, um, and how basically TrickBot is in, if I'm not mistaken, which please correct me if I'm wrong, is known as
Mm-hmm.
a baking malware, and that has gotten established or surfaced in October 2016. And basically, one of the reasons why it's very dangerous is um, to enterprises is because one, it can propagate throughout the network, so lateral movements and basically spread. Um, and if it basically gets access to the domain controller, well, if it gets admin access to the domain controller, it basically can steal any information that's in Active Directory, database and get more network credentials from that.
Uh-huh.
One thing that TrickBot has done, and I'm basically reading this from the article on Bleeping Computer, um, is that they've added another new module designed to probe and infect devices for UEFI vulnerabilities. Ooh, interesting. Which will give the malware ultimate control over compromised machines. And basically, once it has access to the UEFI, UEFI, yes, I just correct. My dyslexia was like, wait, hold on. Um, Basically, the TrickBot gang will be able to establish persistence, so you would not be able to remove um, their hook even if you do an operating system reinstall or you replace the storage drive replacements. Um, so that's actually interesting, which I'm probably going to dig into some more on that because that definitely caught my eye right there. And they apparent that UEFI model, apparently they published an article about that back in December 3rd. So I'm late to the game on that one, but I'm definitely gonna dig into that a little bit more now. But
Yeah.
anyways, did you
Yeah, I know.
that's it for me on some of what caught my eye.
No, I mean, well, yeah, TrickBot's a pain in the butt. So,
Is it?
uh, no, it really is. I mean, yeah, because like even you just kind of alluded to, basically the resiliency of it, right? So
Mhm. Yeah.
it seems like the individuals operating, the primary operators of it and the people that are actually in control of the code. Again, it kind of goes back to those type of actors that are super dedicated, right? That are
Mhm.
constantly, grinding it out in regards to staying up to date with what we're doing, right? Like kind of what we're talking about right now. Like,
Mhm.
like what have researchers found,
Mhm.
what type of detection capabilities are out there, how do you remove it? Oh wait, crap, they've changed it again. And this just, again,
Mhm.
yeah, the cat and mouse aspect of it. Um I do remember last year there was, who was it? There was like a massive like trick bot kind of like disruption to like their to their infrastructure. It was like Q4 last year. It was it may have been like maybe like Cyber Reason or one of the one of the bigger vendors out there, led the way to basically like shutting down a lot of their infrastructure. I just cannot for the life of me recall who it was right now, but
Hmm.
they're back again. That was like, I want to say this was like November or October timeframe, but they're back again. So again, the resiliency of a lot of threat actors, and
Mhm.
driven by, really driven by money and capabilities. Like,
Mhm.
I think that's a really common misconception uh when you're dealing with, you know I don't want to say when you're involved in the IR aspect of this from an organizational perspective, because at that point, you already know you've been attacked, and you're trying to combat that, remove it, get your systems back up online, right? But when
Mhm.
you're kind of approaching this from a research perspective, it gets really fascinating looking at some of these gangs, because naturally it's really hard if you're like on different forums, or if you're in a position where you can actually make purchases or buy the malware. It's really hard to get to the source, like the person that's actually writing the malware and keeping it
Mhm.
up to date, because you're likely dealing with like some middleman or middle person. It could be a shady woman. I'm not sexist. It could be some woman that's selling malware. You never know. Everybody's got to make a living, right?
Mhm.
But you're typically dealing with like a middle person that's selling you the goods,
Mhm.
right? That's selling you the malware, and then you can put in your request through them, or maybe, I think Zeus had this. Like at one point, they had basically like customer service where you could request, like, hey, I have my own C2 box that I stood up in like DigitalOcean. Can you write
Mhm.
that into, the malware? And like they would take those requests for like certain fees or whatnot. But the resiliency of what you're seeing with TrickBot probably means we got another couple months of dealing with this, most likely.
Until they move on to the next technique.
Yeah, yeah, or the code gets repurposed. Like that's
Yep.
something that's super common too.
Well, speaking of that it could either be a she or he that is capable of doing these things. One thing I did want to mention, which um, I guess is Day of Security is actually coming up, and that will be on March 23rd, and it's a whole day conference that's free, basically advocating for and trying to promote women that are, because in cybersecurity, women are underrepresented. So I haven't seen them post their schedule yet, but I will go ahead and share that link with you. But because you mentioned the she thing, I was like, let me go ahead and plug this in because this event is coming up soon, which I'm actually really excited for. I don't believe I've attended one of these before, Women in
Hmm.
Security, but apparently it's from your neck of the woods up in Boston. So
Yeah, I went. I went last year. I mean, not no. Uh, when it it was like a year ago. I'm sorry. Maybe like a year ago I went. So Day of Security is put on by uh 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 it's a brainchild of Deidre Diamond. I love Deidre. Like she's been like a mentor to me for like years and years and years. So she did have it was actually under the umbrella of Brain Babe. That's what it was. It was under the umbrella of like Brain Babe for a while. But then she changed the name of that. So I believe now it's like secure
and there,
diversity. It's secure diversity now.
ah, I gotta check
So
into that.
yeah, so actually the conference, I mean that webinar I mentioned that I was on Wednesday was with CyberSN. CyberSN is the company that Deidre started.
Hmm.
So I actually at the first day of security in Boston, I did a workshop there, and then I also participated in like the speed mentoring section. The speed mentoring session that took place there. So yeah, it's definitely it was kind of crazy for me because I'd never been in a conference that was targeted specifically towards women,
Hmm.
and there were a lot of people there. Like there was a lot of people there. I think the origin location of this is San Francisco.
Yeah.
I think that's where it typically runs. So it's definitely I think they're expecting like a couple hundred people to sign up. So it's going to be fairly massive this year. Definitely check it out. It's a good cause. DJ is probably one of like my favorite people in the world. Definitely one of my favorite people in the world of security. But just overall, human to human. Like she's just like
Hmm.
an awesome, just a really really awesome person. She was actually funny story when I started NoHat. I spoke to my wife about it, before I pulled the trigger. But DJ was the only person I spoke to outside of my wife about it when I was starting it.
Oh
I sat
wow.
down with her at lunch, and I remember this vividly. Yeah, I sat down with her at lunch about this. We went to this Mexican place in downtown Boston, and I kind of laid out what I was thinking about doing with like creating the cyber range,
Mm.
which we're close to releasing finally. So
Woo.
I'll be talking about that a lot more in the coming weeks. But creating the cyber range and creating like a consultancy around the areas of security that I really like. So she was like, like definitely she was a big kind of definitely a factor in me like moving forward, like a lot of
Hmm.
the positive reinforcement that she gave. Because of course, when you're starting something like this, starting a business, there's always, I don't care who you are. I think there's always room for like self doubt. That's just the
Oh
human
yeah.
nature aspect. But she was like, no, go ahead, push forward. This was like 2.5 years ago. It's like just, I think the main advice was just like stay focused and try to survive year over year. Just ensure that you're getting better year over year.
Hmm.
So yeah, and that's like true story. Like she was like the second person I told, and then that was it. And then I like the next day I found. I think no, I'm sorry. That night I got on LegalZoom and like filed, for the company, filed the official like LLC like paperwork and stuff. So yeah,
I love that.
definitely, yeah, yeah. So loads of respect for her, and Adriana, Lisa, that are working with her. loads of respect for those ladies. Like they are helping a lot of people out when it comes like finding jobs
Hmm.
and stuff like that in security. So yeah, overall, CyberSyn's like a really awesome company. I'm sure data security is going to be sick this year too.
I'm really excited to attend it for the first time. I mean, even with these virtual conferences, the other thing is like, um, I love how, and it always catches me off guard how small our cybersecurity community is. Just even would have never known that, you know, you knew her like that or like that people are connected like that. I'm just that naive, but I think it's just so awesome about our something about our community. And like you said, even with the self in regards to the self-doubt when you're doing like a passion project or when you're launching a business, that's definitely prevalent. I know I've been experiencing that. Uh, so that's just I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I think the community is pretty small. That's why I'm a big fan of like
Hmm.
telling people don't.
It feels so big when you're new. Like I will say I still feel
Yeah,
like it's extremely large and it always surprises me when people know each other and I'm like, "Wait, you do?" Like, "What?"
right. Yeah, I mean, especially when you think about like areas of focus. How many people
Hmm.
do how many people are doing web app
Uh,
security? Right, that's a
yeah.
small pool of
Mm.
individuals. How many people are strictly focusing on offensive security? How many people are focused on IR, reverse engineering? Like it's when you start to break down the different focus areas, like it gets hella small, like really quick. So
Yeah, it's something I'm definitely learning. But yeah, I love that.
yeah,
Anyways.
no, no, all good, all good.
Alrighty. And what's up next, O'Shea?
I think we're gonna get to Mr. Underhill.
Yeah, let's
Shoot
jump
over
into it.
to his recording. Yeah, so let me
I
cue
will
up.
say that's also another for me that's another instance because I remember I started being and while you're pulling that up while I was being starting to be more active on LinkedIn, which slowly getting a little bit more active on Twitter. I need to stop. I need to just push myself a little bit more. But
Yeah,
anyways, I remember seeing Ken post all he had such great like really motivating content, especially for somebody who had just started, and even now all the time. But it was just wild when we got to have him on because I was just I'm still just awestruck whenever I meet people, especially in cyber, that I've lurked on, and I've connected with, and I'm really excited because a lot of the stuff that he mentions, um, and I think we dropped a couple little clips of that this interview the last day or two, and if not,
yeah.
I'm definitely gonna drop another one later. But
Drop
a
them
lot
all.
of I think he has such good like positive nuggets of um just like encouragement, honestly, especially for people who are just getting started. One thing that he mentions is, you know, getting your hands dirty in cybersecurity and not just focusing on certs, but and I'll let him talk about it in in our interview. I enjoyed it. It was such a good time.
Yeah, I would say he's definitely one of the positive voices. Like I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of trying
I'm
to think of a
still
nice
waiting
way
on
to
my cat memes from him. He promised when we connected on LinkedIn.
like can you cat memes. Let me I'll go ahead and queue up
Mhm.
Mr. Underhill.
Do 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 do. Ah. Mm.
Everyone, and welcome back to IDS. We had someone come in on the break and join
Can you hear me?
Was out of necessity because it was a smaller company.
Yeah, you said something that I 100% agree with in regards to your start, which is around hands-on learning. Like anytime, out of all the people that communicate with me, most of them are like on the younger side, which is cool. Like to see that interest, but I probably spend 40% of my DMs responding. I have like a template on just how to build out a lab because they always ask like, how do I get started? I'm like, you need to do some hands-on stuff. And they're like, well, what do you mean by hands-on? I was like, well, what do you want to do? And then we go into the whole topic of me persuading them not to go into pen testing just yet, but like maybe learn a couple other areas. And here's how you build out a lab. So yeah, I think hands-on is by far the best way to go. Even before, like while you're in school, before you're in school, after school, whatever. Like that's really the only way that you learn. I always like the joke I like to say is like the people you're chasing are very hands-on, so you're gonna have to be that. So you're gonna have to be that too.
Definitely. Yeah, no, Shay, I think you brought up a good point there. So many people I speak with, they see hacking in movies and stuff, and I want to be a hacker. I probably hear that at least 100 times a week. The reality is you really need to have a good understanding of the fundamentals. And many people want to skip that step and focus on just hacking stuff, but if you don't understand how data communicates with those networks, you don't understand a little bit, even just scripting and how things work, then you're going to suck as a pen tester, for lack of better
Yeah, I'm not sure. Like all I did was send the audio on YouTube.
Point there of like you need to learn
Looks
some
like it was
other
already
things
on.
first, then you can pivot into pen testing at some point.
They don't like to do that.
No, not at all. Yeah, I say it all the time. People ignore me, and then like 6 months later, they come back with the same question. I'm like, the answer's still the
He's
same.
definitely wrong. I'm not. I mean,
Well, the other thing too, not only like it is 100% important to know the fundamentals, but the technical aspect of it, actually getting your hands dirty and getting into it. Because I know for me,
yeah. I mean, I basically
getting the college degree, that's great. It helped me have a degree, but actually doing, participating in CTFs and building things on the side and then breaking things on the side really helped me get to learn the ins and outs of it. You can tell me on a piece of paper, great. I know how to do answer a multiple choice question. But at the end of the day, being able to actually get into it helped me tremendously. And I honestly learned more on the job, quite honestly, from than in school. So being technical and being hands-on is 100% true. Sorry.
No, totally fine. I'll share a story real quick. So way back in the day, when I first got into IT, which many years ago, I'm not going to date myself, but that was
He's like 74. It was a good year.
Back in the 60s. But anyways, I had landed an internship across the country, and I had to figure out networking basically to figure out there, because the person that got the internship like talked a big game, right? Like, this guy knows networking, this guy knows everything. I didn't know crap about computers, honestly. I did a little bit of stuff in school, but I didn't know anything. So there was books years ago, I don't know if they still have them, but there's like Sam's Teach Yourself whatever topic in like 24 hours or whatever. So I grabbed one on networking, and I read it on the flight skills, because if you can show people you're doing stuff and you're passionate about it, that's honestly how you land the interviews. You don't land it because you pass Security Plus. You don't land it because you pass Network Plus or whatever. You land it because you can prove that if I take a chance on you, you can at least do some basic things, and I can teach you the rest. I just need to know that you've got passion about this stuff, and you're not just trying to do it for a paycheck. Because at the end of the day, it's going to take you a little while to get the paycheck you want. So it's going to take you some years. So I need to make sure you're passionate first about this hands-on stuff.
Yeah, and the communication part, like it's like years ago, I wouldn't have harped on the communications aspect, like the EQ side, like emotional intelligence. I honestly, it probably wouldn't have been something that came out of my mouth. But like the last 3 or 4 years, I can honestly say like that's been not key in my career, but it's been a part of like a really sharp incline, like a sharp uptick in like different areas, speaking like business. Like I work for myself, but like the business I started, being able to like converse with customers and things along those lines. Because I think we've all run across that at times where you have like an insanely smart person that isn't like the best communicator. Like I remember at a job I worked with a guy who did security at the White House, and he was like crazy brilliant. But like he would DM you while he's sitting next to you. Like you'd be right next to him at work, and he like I'm not joking, he would like DM you. It was the weirdest thing. Like he wouldn't just like turn around and talk, have his headphones on. You maybe got a couple words out of him like a day, and then the rest of the time he was just chatting with you like you're not less than a foot from him. It was the craziest thing. But everyone kind of sucked it up and ate it because he was so good. Like it was like he was just his skill was just like kind of through the roof. So it was like, well, we'll just deal with it. And yeah, he's kind of rude at times. We'll just deal with it because he's so good at what he does. But that only gets you so far before enough people kind of form a pitch mob and like, okay, enough is enough. Like we need someone else in here.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, communication is critical in any relationship, especially in cyber. You can really, as you mentioned, O'Shea, you can really accelerate your career by having effective communication. If you think about it in the context of a business, there's always a buyer and seller in every conversation or transaction. So if you go into an interview, most of the time you're trying to sell yourself to the company, like, hey, you should hire me because of this or that. But really, you also need to think of the flip side there and say, well, they need to sell themselves to me because I've got value. You know, you have to understand your own value there. So going back to the communication aspect, if you understand your own value, it becomes easier to get into those conversations, whether it's business or you're just trying to get a job, and take a more, I always tell people, walk into a room like you own the table already, right? Like everyone else has been keeping the seats warm for you. Always walk in a room like you own the table already. And a lot of people have trouble with that. And I don't know what you mean, but really it's just more about knowing your value and then going into those rooms. And when you can effectively communicate your value to someone else, you know your value and you can share it with others. You really become unstoppable at that point, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think confidence goes a long way. Even if confidence and humility, but like humility is like really big. You're like really just like humbling yourself at the time. Like I've seen people come in and they do the whole, okay, cool, I'm here, like lay back, like almost like if they almost as if they're gonna kick their feet up, but they're kind of laid back, just like this really open body language. I'm like, this is a big gamble. It's like either they're really good or he's like doing some crazy bluffing. I just can't tell right now. I'll know at the end of this. And I know you mentioned teaching with seminary and then, you know, the progression that you made. Was there any like influences that kind of that you looked at or someone's career or maybe someone that put a word in your ear that made you kind of start to like move outside of, you know, just the day job, right? Or just like the 9 to 5 of security and move towards teaching and these other things?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've always been entrepreneurial. I've had many companies in the past. Some I've sold, some of them terrible ideas that totally flopped. The other aspect is I had actually, probably like 3 or 4 years before Cyber, I started creating online courses. I had watched some course online, and the person was like, if you create online courses, you can make, you know, millions of dollars and, you know, all this stuff while you sleep. And so I created my first course. I didn't make millions off that one. I made $16, but I did it while I was out at dinner. And I was hooked at that point with the online course aspect, and that was early on. So I improved over the years, and Cyber actually was just an aspect of I had used them in my master's program when I was studying for CEH and the CHFI exams, and I was like, well, I want to give back, right? I want to give back, and so I reached out to them, can I teach a course? While I was building that course, which was the basic pen testing course, while I was building that, they had actually, unbeknownst to me, had a conversation about bringing on someone full-time in kind of an instructor type of role, or master instructor role. And so because of the quality of my content and what I was producing in a short time frame, they're like, well, are you interested in this? And I was like, hey, why not, right? So that's kind of how I got into that and how I made the transition. However, I've always had my own business on the side, so I still keep my security skills up. I do some pen testing for small business owners. I do some just kind of advisement for them, especially around like policies and stuff and different laws. So I've kept my skill set up is where I'm going with that. I don't think anyone should fully make a transition, right, from having their skill set and then, oh, I'm just going to teach now, be a full-time teacher. I think you need to keep your skill set up because, yeah, there's fundamentals, but this industry changes so quickly. I mean, it changes weekly, right? A lot of things. So I think you have to keep your skill set up. And if that means you need to create a side company or side hustle to be able to do that, then I definitely think you should do that. Now, if you're a practitioner, I think you need to, we'll talk finances for a minute. I think you need to be fiscally sound. And what I mean by that is you need to have additional revenue besides just your job, right? A lot of people just have that one source of income. They get laid off. Oops, I don't know what to do now. Create some online courses or do some consulting on the side, whatever you can do based off your non-competes. But I think you need to have more than one stream of income. I'm a big proponent of that. And I try to teach a lot of people to do that. Again, just like the pen testing thing, a lot of people ignore me. Hopefully someone listens to this and takes that advice and creates some additional sources.
Yeah, and also in this, take your point. I think in this field, like the odds are on your side. Like there's a massive amount of gigs out there where they can't be filled. They probably won't be filled, honestly, over the next 3 to 4 years. I'm just going to be blunt. They're going to have more and more contractors coming in. I know places that have been looking for full time like engineers for almost 2 years. Like because it's one, they're out in the middle of like it's this one specific company. It's a pretty big multinational, but they're out in the middle like of America. Like people aren't going to move to where they are, so they've been contracting for like dang near 2 years. And like I've done some stuff with them, and then like every 7 or 8 months they'll come back around like, hey, what are you up to? Like, still doing my thing. Like, cool, you want to full time? Like, no. Like, well, you want to contract with them? Sure. I'm not coming there. Okay, cool. Like, it's like this just keeps going. But what I'm seeing is like there's so much opportunity out there. Even you're gonna have to put in some extra hours. There's no way around that part. But I mean, you got to give up parts of your social life. But if you're willing to do that, there's a lot of work out there in security, and not just technical. There's stuff in policy, there's stuff in intel, there's stuff in hunting. There's a lot of stuff out there. You just have to go get it.
And I think you bring up a couple of good points there. Number one, there is a lot of stuff out there, but you also need the skill set for it.
Yeah.
And you have to put in the work. There's some people that just refuse to put in the work that it takes to get to those areas. I think the secondary part is a lot of companies are so rigid in what they're looking for, right? And maybe COVID will help kind of open the mindset a little more. But like you said, no one's going to move to the remote middle part of America. Why would I, right? Especially if I'm in a state where, because I've had offers from companies like in California where tax laws are terrible. I'm not moving there. I'm in Texas. This is great business tax laws and everything here. I'm not going to take like a third of my net worth and throw it out the window just because, like it doesn't make any sense. And so I think the more companies are open to remote work where it's possible, you're going to get a lot higher quality candidates that can fill those roles full time versus contracting all the time. So you kind of have to, as an organization, think you need to awaken a little more and be a little more open and not be so rigid in a little box.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm hoping that kind of like what you touched on, Ken, is that with COVID and everything else, is that these companies start to kind of broaden those boundaries, because a lot of people don't want to move to the middle of nowhere, or especially when you have the option to work remote. But like the both of you said, you would definitely have to put the work in, and it is definitely helpful, especially if 2020 has shown anybody anything. You need to make those hard decisions to make yourself stable, especially having multiple lanes of income. That will definitely help out. So you've touched on a bunch of different tips and even guidance and a whole lot. But is there something that you want to make sure is mentioned that our audience can keep security in mind that you might not have touched on yet?
Yeah. So many things, right?
Right.
I mean, for the business owners out there, just understand like you see all these things and you may not take it seriously, especially small business owners. There's a mindset. I did a webinar the other day for the city of Houston, and there's a mindset a lot of times of it won't happen to me because I'm a small business owner. And there's several areas that I addressed in the webinar. One of the areas I see so many small business owners make a mistake on is they'll spin up a website in GoDaddy or something, right? But they'll use a very weak password. I mean, literally I crack in 5 seconds for them. And then they're not using two-factor authentication. So I'm in there, right? I'm like, look, if I can get it this quickly, and I'm one of the good guys, like just understand what could happen, right? Like you got an e-commerce business. It's done, right? You're not taking sales, you're not getting money, your business is done. Until you can get GoDaddy to get your access back, hopefully, at some point. So you have to, if you're a small business owner listening to this out there, you have to understand that you are a target. Now, are you a target of a nation state? Probably not, right? Are you a target of a real criminal gang? Probably not, unless you've really ticked somebody off. Are you a target of like Anonymous or one of those activist groups? More than likely not, just because you haven't pissed anybody off, right? But you are a target of the script kiddies, right? You are a target of the more generalized, curious types of questionable hackers out there that might be just running some out-of-the-box malware or something like that. So you have to be mindful that there's a lot of fundamental things you can do to protect yourself, but the risk is real, right? It's not something we are just fear-mongering out there. The risk is real to your business, and you have to ask yourself, do I care about my business or not? Because when I show some small business owners how easy it is to do different things like hack their social media, etc., legally, FBI if you're watching legally,
They're not watching.
yeah, they could care less. But when I show them those things and how quickly it can happen, it's a wake up call, right? But I can only touch so many small business owners, right? I can only touch so many people. There's a lot more out there. So if you're watching this, just understand that there is a real risk there. And if you don't know what you're doing, if you're like, I don't understand this stuff, reach out to someone that you know, even if on social media. A lot of us, you'll be surprised, help pro bono. Like I've helped a lot of companies pro bono get themselves a little more in order because they don't have the capital to get there themselves. So if you're a small business owner watching, my tips there are, number one, the fundamentals can do a lot to protect you. And there's a lot of resources out there. And then number two, take this stuff seriously because it can happen to your business. If you're a job seeker out there, understand that applying, this is my opinion, let me just put it out there, but applying to a million jobs is a terrible idea, right? Just spraying and praying with your resume. Focus on building real relationships with people like on social media, and then tell them what you're trying to do and actually do things like ask them, hey, like O'Shea mentioned earlier, spin up your own labs, right? And then say, hey, I'm working on these things. Do you know what kind of jobs might be open where I can just get my feet wet and learn a little more on the job? O'Shea might hear about a job next week that matches that. But if you never tell him, he has no idea what's going on in your head, that you even need a job. So build those relationships and then tap into it. Don't go to somebody, like I get a lot of messages like, give me. I'm like, what job do you want, right? Like maybe I can refer you to someone. No, help me write my resume. I don't have time, right? So just be mindful of that stuff. Build real relationships on social media, and that will help you position yourself better for jobs.
Yeah, I always say give people time to respond with DMs. Like I'm not the best at responding. I mean, I openly admit that, but there's times I look at the timestamp. Somebody, let's say it's Monday, someone sends a message, and then the following Monday, it's like, oh, I thought you were here to help. You said reach out to you anytime. I'm like, whoa, like what's going on here? It's been 7 days, man. Give me some time to get through those things. But yeah, I mean, it's you said like a lot of good things there, and I think a lot of it, if someone is looking for a job, they should definitely take that to heart. Something I always try to advise, at least to this generation, the younger generation, people my age, I just turned 37, they're not going to do this, but I tell the younger generation to blog. I'm like, get on Hack the Box, get on HackerOne, and start blogging about it. Like that shows me more than what your resume will from an interview. Like if I can follow your blog and see like progress you're making, that shows me a lot more. So like I'm a big fan of that. Some people, they don't like to do that, but I think if you're early 20s and you're coming out of school and you're trying to like stand out from some of your peers that are chasing the same jobs you are, like I think that's a pretty solid way.
Yeah, absolutely. I would also say I tell people to create a YouTube channel. Like you just want to be able to show what you're doing, because you never know, right? You keep posting on, say, LinkedIn with your, you share your blog posts, whatever. All of a sudden, someone reaches out with a job. You're not connected to them, whatever, but because they've seen what you're doing or they came across one post that you did, that's the difference between you getting something. And a lot of times, I stopped applying for jobs many years ago because I created relationships. And as I did more things, as people got to know me, they said, hey, we just talked about this position. Are you interested? Sure, why not, right? That's how it happens for the most part, at least in my experience. Gosh, man, I can't even remember the last time the last time I applied for a job was when I came from nursing to IT again. That was the last time I ever applied for a job. I've never had to, like, the resume stuff is an afterthought. But O'Shea, you brought up a good point there. For a lot of people on social media, especially if they're very busy people and you see that they've got huge followings, whatever. I mean, in a given week, I probably get anywhere from 400 to 1,000 messages on LinkedIn. Look, I don't have time, like with the show, I don't have time to respond to everybody. I do at some point, but sometimes it might even take me a month because your message gets lost. So what I tell people is, if you didn't get a response usually within like a week, just ping me again and say, hey, did you see this? Like, be cordial. They'll be like, hey, jerk, where's, you never responded. But like, hey, did you see this? Because a lot of times I might miss it, right? It's just reality. If you send like a connection request, send a message with it. Don't. If you just send me a request, then you go to the kind of the bottom of my pile, and like maybe once a week or maybe once a month, I go through those ones. Make sure you're not a bot and accept it. But just little things like that, little nuances like that are for me at least, the key to actually getting a response. May not be the response you want. I might be telling you that pen testing isn't for you right off the bat, but at least you'll get a response from me at some point.
Yeah, I agree. Something we generally ask our guests, you can take a second to think about it, but yeah, pressure's on. But if you were to write a white paper, about your life, like what would that be about one, but also what would that title be?
I would say the title, interestingly enough, wouldn't be tech. It would be pushing through. I grew up, for those that know me or for some of my story, we won't go into everything, but I grew up very poor. I like to call it Russian poor, but I actually had shoes, so that's kind of the main difference. But there was many times I literally went weeks without food growing up. I didn't have a choice growing up in the middle of nowhere. So for me, it'd be pushing through. I've overcome a lot of different things, and I think that regardless of the adversity you've gone through, regardless of who you are, because everyone goes through something, even if you grew up in privilege, maybe your parents were abusive or something. Um, Pushing through is an aspect that to get to the level of success you want, to achieve the dreams you want, the goals you want, you have to push through. You can't quit. If you quit, uh, you're never going to reach it, right? I equate it to also. I grew up in the north, so I equate it to a snowball going down the hill, right? So you start off the snowball of life, and you keep rolling it down the hill, and it collects more snow and gets bigger and bigger. And throughout that journey, though, there's going to be rocks, there's going to be logs, and all these things in your way, and you'll smack into those. You have to figure out how to navigate around those and keep going down the hill. Or you can stop, right? You can stay that same size forever. But if you get to the bottom of the hill, you'll have a big ball of success. So pushing through would be my answer on that. That'd be the name of it, and that would just be kind of a journey of all the things I've gone through in my life.
I really do like that. That's awesome. Pushing through for sure. Sorry.
No, it's awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. If people want to reach out to you, I know we mentioned social media, but if people want to reach out, catch up with you, like where can they find you, Ken?
Yeah, so I deleted my personal Twitter. However, there is one for CyberLife TV, but LinkedIn's the best place to find me. I just found it's easier to focus on one communication aspect there. You can also go to cyberlife.tv and sign up to find out when the show launches. Right now, just FYI, it's planned the week of Thanksgiving. That depends on approvals and all this stuff from the channel and stuff. But that's kind of the main ways to find me.
Awesome. Well, Mr. Hill, thanks for coming on and spending some time with us. Greatly appreciate it, dude.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, for sure. We'll have to be back once, like maybe mid-season or maybe after season one. Let us know how that goes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Well, thanks, dude.
I was just thinking
Yeah,
about
thank you
his.
to
Go on.
yeah, thanks Ken for coming out and spending time with us. That was definitely great advice. I haven't checked out the show. I gotta navigate to where the show is. I haven't had a chance to do that. Did you have a chance to do it yet?
It's funny. I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, wow, that was because I think we got to sit down with him back before the holidays. And I was actually just thinking about because it was supposed to launch in January 2021. So
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what I saw on his LinkedIn. So I was like, I need to go check that out because it sounded really interesting.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to do that. So well, thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Apologies for the technical difficulties. We will definitely get that sorted out. Uh, Always looking to improve and get better. Any feedback anyone may have, feel free to drop a line at IDS Podcast on Twitter, or for me at Sir Mudblood on Twitter.
And then you can catch me on as C squared on Twitter as well. Um, Definitely call me out because I'm trying to not be a lurker. So,
True. Get in there and start interacting.
and that goes for every other people that are starting to get into cyber. Like he said, start putting content out there, and like you said in the interview, put stuff out there.
Yeah, I mean, there was one thing he said. I think it was like minute. I think it was like the 12th or 13th minute. I'll when we upload this to Spotify and put it on the YouTube channel when we edit it, I'll be sure to add the markers
Put our notes, yeah.
for the minutes. But one of the things he said that definitely resonates with me, that I find myself like constantly repeating with younger individuals, is like, you gotta really find yourself in this space where you take control of what you want to do, right? Like, getting the fundamentals down in security, especially if you want to go into pen testing. I don't even want to, we could have a whole episode about this, I feel about this part, but that's on you to really begin to take that in, right? Like, I've said this a couple of times, but some of the best, offensive individuals I know, two of them are legit high school dropouts. Like, and I don't mean this to say like, oh, go drop out of high school, but two of them are legit high school dropouts. But one of them is this extremely creative person, like not just in security. He's like this with cars. He's big into motors, just like brilliant dude, super creative. And the other one, just kind of drills down into whatever he's focused on. None of them have certs, right? Both of them, got their GEDs, and then one ended up going to work for government. The other one's working for another pretty big security company right now. But it's really that taking that personal time to really focus on the areas that are of importance to you. I don't think, I think there's a lot of noise out there that causes individuals to second guess themselves. So they think they need to go like have this certification, or they need this like path painted out for them. And that's like BS in my mind. Like, a lot of what you can learn is free already, right? A lot of the tools that are out there, like actually, I'll give you a good example, because there was a tool I wanted to talk about anyway. It's CLYR, or it's Siler, but they CYLR. And it's a part of a larger package called SCADI, SKADI. The gentleman that wrote the tool, his background is primarily around differ, but it's an amazing tool for memory and disk analysis. It's a way to quickly deploy a binary, quickly deploy an agent to a box that you're looking to analyze, grab those artifacts, and begin to use pre-built profiles, kind of like Volatility, right? Like, Volatility has some of those pre-built profiles that you can use for analysis. It's similar to that, but it's fewer choices. But it is an awesome tool for really learning digital forensics, right? So you don't have to get to the point where you're reverse engineering malware every day, but if you can at least understand, hey, here are a couple of different Windows API calls that are happening, on a normal box upon startup, within minute 0 to minute 5. This is what you would normally see on a box that's actually spun up. Okay, now I can create a profile of the normal processes and programs that are spun up. Okay, what are these other ones that are out there, right? Like, it gives you that capability to really think about it from a beginner's perspective and learning. When I did the workshop at Women of Cyber Jiu-Jitsu, when was that conference? Do you remember last year?
I think it was in April.
Yeah, because you had a course there, right? Like you did.
Yeah.
But when I had the workshop there, I used SCADI. Within the workshop when it came to the artifact collection and artifact analysis and reviewing aspect. I really enjoy that. I know we're definitely gonna have to start diving more into tools, because I feel like a lot of the questions that people have not just around offensive security, but defensive security, demonstrating how you can use one or two open source tools to actually find an answer goes a very long way versus me kind of explaining it to you. But I know that was kind of a tangent, but what Ken said around, sitting down, building out boxes, building out your lab, that is essentially, in reality, if you take away the money part of what you're doing at work, right? What in its essence, at its pure essence, like what are you doing, 7 or 8 hours a day? You're sitting on a computer, you are using a couple of different programs, a couple of different tools to analyze data at the end of the day. You can do that at home. There's no reason you can't replicate that at home, right? So, that's something that Ken said that I'm a big proponent of. With No Hat, we're branching more and more out into training, especially, me kind of focusing, redirecting the company's focus in 2021 on helping more younger individuals get into training versus a lot of the companies that I work with coming in and working with established security programs or helping build out security programs, working with younger individuals and finding a way to help, contribute my efforts to create a pipeline of, either transition into cyber from IT, other IT areas, or people that are just new to IT and security is their first choice. Like I love meeting people that just said, screw it, I'm going to learn security, and actually took the time to just learn different areas of security, took that time to learn networking, a bit about systems and programming. Like I really love meeting like younger individuals that are doing that, because those are the ones I think are likely going to get a lot further because they took it upon themselves. You know what
It's
I
that
mean?
drive, it's that passion. And I think when you're able to show that, and there's so many resources out there that are readily available, and I think one, it can be overwhelming when you know a bunch of them, but it's also when you're new, you don't know about any of these. And I love that there is not just one set path, and that's what I think is one of those things is also important. You don't have to do the like you said, the people that that are just sound like badasses.
They are.
Excuse me. It is.
One of them scares the hell out of
Excuse my
me.
language, but that they didn't have to do a certain path to get to where they're at, and that the same goes for people that are new to the field. I think that is phenomenal, and honestly, everything you said, I 100% I agree with a lot, and I couldn't say it any better, quite honestly, as I'm rambling. But yeah.
No, you're not rambling. You're relaying information. You're not rambling. So,
Anyway, we could go on, but
yeah, we could. But I think we call it, and we get ready to come back and do this again next Wednesday. So again, thanks for tuning in with us tonight.
yeah.
We will see you again. Same bad time, same bad channel, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard next Wednesday also. Again, any time you want to reach out to us, feel free. Seriously, thanks. It's great to see, more people tuning in. This definitely helps us as we begin to move more towards, that maturity level of looking at sponsorships and thinking about how we can use that to contribute back into the community. So thank you.